Relationships can be a great source of happiness and love, but sometimes they can be difficult and painful. One of the reasons for this is that certain behaviors can destroy relationships. In this video, we'll discuss 7 behaviors and give examples to help you understand how they can damage relationships. The first behavior that can destroy relationships is a lack of communication. This means not talking to your partner about your feelings, needs, and concerns. For example, if you're upset about something your partner did but don't tell them, they won't know how to address the issue, and it can fester into a bigger problem. It's important to remember that communication is a two-way street. It's not just about expressing your own thoughts and feelings, but also about actively listening to your partner's. When we don't communicate effectively, we can't work together to find solutions to problems, and we can't build a strong and healthy relationship. So, if you are holding back from communicating with your partner, take a step back and consider why. Are you afraid of being vulnerable? Are you worried about how your partner will react? Whatever the reason, it's important to work through those feelings and try to communicate openly and honestly with your partner. It's important to be open and honest with your partner, actively listen to their thoughts and feelings, and work together to solve problems. The second behavior is being unwilling to compromise. This means not being willing to work together to find solutions to problems. Let's say, for example, your partner has a different opinion than you about something important, like where to live or how to spend money. If you're unwilling to listen to their perspective and always insist on having your way, it can make them feel like their opinion doesn't matter. This can create a power imbalance in the relationship and lead to feelings of frustration and resentment. It's important to remember that relationships are about working together as a team. Sometimes that means making compromises and finding solutions that work for both partners, even if it means giving up something you want. It's important to consider your partner's needs and wants and find solutions that make both of you happy. If you are unwilling to compromise, take a step back and consider why. For example, are you afraid of giving up control? Are you worried about losing something important to you? Whatever the reason, it's important to work through those feelings and find solutions that work for you and your partner. The third behavior is being overly critical. This means constantly finding fault with your partner and pointing out their flaws. Let's say, for example, your partner is cooking dinner for you. Constantly criticizing their cooking and pointing out every little mistake can make them feel like they're not good enough. This can lead to frustration and resentment and ultimately damage the relationship. It's important to remember that no one is perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes. Instead of being overly critical, focus on your partner's positive aspects and actions. If you have concerns or issues, try to address them in a constructive and supportive way rather than criticizing and blaming them. If you find yourself being overly critical, try to take a step back and think about why. Are you feeling insecure or unhappy in the relationship? Are you projecting your issues onto your partner? Whatever the reason, it's important to work through those feelings and try to communicate positively and be supportive. The fourth behavior is being controlled. This means trying to dictate what your partner does, who they see, and how they behave. For example, if your partner wants to hang out with their friends but you don't approve and try to make them stay home, it can lead to resentment and conflict. For example, your partner wants to hang out with their friends, but you don't approve. Trying to make them stay home or tell them who they can and can't see can make them feel like they're not trusted and not respected. This can lead to resentment and conflict and ultimately damage the relationship. It's important to remember that your partner is their own person, with their own interests and needs. It's okay for them to have a life outside of the relationship, and it's important to trust them and respect their choices. Instead of trying to control your partner, try to communicate openly and honestly about your concerns and work together to find solutions that work for both of you. The fifth behavior is a lack of trust. This means not believing in your partner or always questioning their actions. Let's say, for example, you constantly accuse your partner of cheating, even though there's no evidence. If you don't trust them and question their actions all the time, it can make them feel like they're not respected and not valued. This can lead to feelings of anger and frustration and ultimately damage the relationship. It's important to remember that trust is a fundamental component of a healthy relationship. It's important to trust your partner until they give you a reason not to. If you have concerns or issues, try to address them in a respectful and supportive way rather than accusing and blaming them. If you lack trust in your relationship, take a step back and think about why. Are you feeling insecure or anxious about the relationship? Have you been hurt and find it hard to trust others? Whatever the reason, it's important to work through those feelings and try to communicate positively and be supportive. The sixth behavior is being dishonest. Dishonesty involves not telling the truth to your partner. For example, you lie about something important, like your finances or past. If your partner finds out about the lie, it can damage the trust in your relationship and make them feel like they can't trust you. This can lead to feelings of betrayal and hurt and ultimately damage the relationship. It's important to remember that honesty is a fundamental component of a healthy relationship. It's important to be truthful with your partner, even if it's difficult or uncomfortable. If you make a mistake or have something to confess, try to do so in a respectful and supportive way. If you find yourself being dishonest in your relationship, take a step back and consider why. Are you afraid of being judged or rejected? Are you trying to protect your partner or yourself? Whatever the reason, it's important to work through those feelings and try to communicate positively and be supportive. The seventh behavior is a lack of intimacy. This means not being physically or emotionally close to your partner. Let's say, for example, you never show affection or are distant emotionally. If you don't make an effort to be close to your partner, it can make them feel like they're not valued or important to you. This can lead to feelings of loneliness and frustration and ultimately damage the relationship. It's important to remember that intimacy is a fundamental component of a healthy relationship. It's important to make an effort to show affection and be emotionally present for your partner. If you're having trouble being intimate, try to identify the reasons why and communicate them to your partner in a respectful and supportive way. If you lack intimacy in your relationship, take a step back and think about why. Are you feeling stressed or overwhelmed? Have you been hurt and find it hard to be vulnerable? Whatever the reason, it's important to work through those feelings and try to communicate positively and be supportive. Final thoughts, those are 10 behaviors that can destroy relationships. It's important to recognize these behaviors and avoid them in our relationships. By communicating openly, being kind and considerate, and working together to find solutions, we can build strong and healthy relationships that bring joy and fulfillment to our lives. We hope you found this video helpful, and please make sure to like, subscribe and share with others.